What was the name of the blind man healed by Jesus? Option A, Matthew. Option B, Levi. Option C, Bartimaeus. Option D, Peter. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus persistently calls out to Jesus for mercy despite the crowd's rebuke. And Jesus, moved by his faith, heals Bartimaeus, restoring his sight and prompting Bartimaeus to follow him along the road. Who requested Jesus' body from Pilate following the crucifixion? Option A, Joseph of Arimathea. Option B, Simeon. Option C, Paul. Option D, Peter. Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for Jesus' body after the crucifixion and provided the tomb where Jesus was laid. Joseph's role in Jesus' burial is mentioned in all four Gospels, highlighting its significance. Which Persian king allowed exiled Jews to return to Jerusalem? Option A, Darius. Option B, Hammurabi. Option C, Xerxes. Option D, Cyrus. During the Babylonian exile, 586 to 538 BC, many Jews were taken captive and settled in Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar after the destruction of Jerusalem and the First Temple. When Cyrus, a Persian king, conquered Babylon in 539 BC, he not only allowed the Jews to return, but also provided them with resources for rebuilding the temple and restoring their religious practices. This marked the beginning of the Second Temple period in Jewish history. Which king saw a writing on the wall? Option A, Saul. Option B, Belshazzar. Option C, Darius. Option D, Solomon. During Babylon Empire reign, King Belshazzar hosted a feast. He used the gold, silver vessels taken from the Jerusalem temple to drink wine with his nobles and concubines. Suddenly, a hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall near the lampstand. The writing consisted of mysterious words, meaning, tekel, uparsin. None of the wise men of Babylon could interpret the writing, causing great distress to the king. The queen, aware of Daniel's ability to interpret dreams and solve difficult problems, recommended him to the king. Daniel explained the words. Belshazzar had been weighed on the scales and found wanting. His kingdom would be divided and given to the Medes and Persians. That very night, Belshazzar was slain, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom. Who was known for his conversion on the road to Damascus? Option A, Paul. Option B, Naaman. Option C, Job. Option D, Martha. later known as Paul, was a devout Pharisee and persecutor of early Christians until he experienced a dramatic conversion on the road to Damascus. On the road to Damascus, Saul encountered a blinding light from heaven and heard a voice asking, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" He identified the voice as Jesus and was struck blind for 3 days. Who was the queen who saved the Jews from genocide? Option A, Sheba. Option B, Judith. Option C, Esther. Option D, Hannah. Esther, a Jewish queen, risked her life to expose a plot, saving her people from genocide. Haman, an influential official in the Persian court, harbored deep hatred for the Jewish people. He plotted to exterminate all Jews in the empire. But Esther's bravery led to the downfall of their enemy, Haman, and ensured the Jewish community's survival. Which prophet saw a valley of dry bones come to life? Option A, Samuel. Option B, Jeremiah. Option C, Ezekiel. Option D, Elijah. Ezekiel saw a vision of dry bones in a valley, representing Israel's spiritual deadness. God told Ezekiel to speak to the bones, and they came to life, showing God's promise to help Israel. This vision means hope and renewal for Israel, because God keeps His promises. Who presented his wife as a sister to protect himself against potential harm from Egyptians? Option A, Tobit. Option B, Joseph. Option C, Gilead. Option D, Abraham. Once there was a severe famine in Canaan, prompting Abraham to seek shelter in Egypt for food. Abraham became concerned about the Egyptians' treatment of foreigners. He feared that they might kill him to take Sarah, who was renowned for her beauty. To protect himself, Abraham instructed Sarah to say that she was his sister, not his wife. As Abraham had feared, when the Egyptians saw Sarah's beauty, took her into Pharaoh's household as a potential wife. Meanwhile, Abraham received gifts of livestock and servants from Pharaoh. However, before Pharaoh could marry Sarah, God intervened. He afflicted Pharaoh and his household with plagues, making Pharaoh realize that Sarah was actually Abraham's wife. Pharaoh rebuked Abraham for deceiving him and commanded him to take Sarah and leave Egypt. Abraham and Sarah departed with the wealth and possessions they had acquired in Egypt. Who was called the Weeping Prophet? Option A, Jeremiah. Option B, Ezekiel. Option C, Naaman. Option D, Elijah. Jeremiah witnessed the Babylonian invasion, the destruction of the first temple, and the exile of many Jews to Babylon. He earned the title Weeping Prophet for his sorrow and lamentation, over Jerusalem's destruction and his people's plight. Which nationality was Ruth? Option A, Lebanon. Option B, Moabite or Jordan. Option C, Egypt. Option D, Babylon. Ruth was a Moabite woman who became an ancestor of King David and Jesus Christ. Ruth and Orpah married Naomi's sons, but both the sons died, leaving Ruth and Orpah widowed. Despite the challenges, Ruth chooses to stay with Naomi and accompanies her back to Bethlehem from Moab. In Bethlehem, Ruth works in the fields of a man named Boaz, who is a relative of Naomi. Boaz shows kindness and generosity to Ruth, eventually leading to their marriage. Ruth's faithfulness, humility, and virtuous character are celebrated in the biblical account, highlighting themes of loyalty, love, and God's providence. Which prophet was fed by the ravens that brought food to him during the drought? Option A, Elijah. Option B, Elisha or Elishiu. Option C, Samuel. Option D, Micah. During a time of drought and famine in the land of Israel, God commanded Elijah to go to the brook Cherith, where he would be fed. Ravens brought Elijah bread and meat in the morning and evening, sustaining him during this difficult time. It served as a sign of God's power and faithfulness in sustaining Elijah's life and ministry, even in the midst of challenging circumstances. Which mountain did Jesus transfigure himself alongside Moses and Elijah? Option A, Sinai. Option B, Tabor. Option C, Zion. Option D, Carmel. During the Transfiguration on Mount Tabor, Jesus' appearance transformed, shining brilliantly, and Moses and Elijah appeared, representing the law and the prophets. God affirmed Jesus as his son, instructing the disciples to listen to him. This event revealed Jesus' divine nature, fulfilled Old Testament prophecies, and strengthened the disciples' faith. Who is celebrated for infiltrating the Assyrian enemy camp and beheading their general? Option A, Judith. Option B, Esther. Option C, Joanna. Option D, Sheba. Judith is a biblical figure known for her bravery in saving her people from an enemy army. She infiltrated the enemy camp, beheaded their general Holofernes, and inspired her people to victory. Judith's story is celebrated for her courage and strategic thinking, symbolizing the triumph of righteousness over tyranny. Which disciple cut off the ear of high priest's servant during Jesus' arrest? Option A, John. Option B, James. Option C, Peter. Option D, Judas. During the arrest of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, a group of soldiers, accompanied by Judas Iscariot, came to arrest Jesus. In the chaos that ensued, Peter drew his sword and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his ear. Jesus immediately rebuked Peter, telling him to put away his sword, and then miraculously healed the servant's ear. Jesus also emphasized that those who live by the sword will die by the sword, indicating that violence was not the way to fulfill God's plan. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to Quiz Trinkets for more interesting videos.